Well, good day and welcome to the Light Reading Podcast. I'm Jeff Baumgartner, a senior editor at Light Reading.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. This is Rocco Laurenzano, Chief Operating Officer of GFiber.
Rocco, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you on after we had a chance to visit a little bit at Fiber Connect a few weeks ago. It's good to catch up with you.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so I think today we're gonna try to cover a bit of ground. We're gonna talk a little bit about GFiber's build out plans, some of the work that's been done to help the company prioritize and fast track some of your projects. We'll dig into some of the current build out plans for fiber, maybe a little bit about how fixed wireless continues to play a role in some of the markets, and if we have time, or if we're so inclined, we'll talk a little bit about the current status of the revised BEAD program and how that might or might not fit into what GFiber is doing. So, but before we dive in, I thought it'd be good just up front to talk a little bit about your background and your role at GFiber, right? Because like some others, there you do have a background that stems from the cable world, where I've been very focused for a lot of my career, like Altice USA, Time Warner Cable, Charter, what we used to know as Insight Communications. So I imagine that's kind of helped in your current role and the ambitions of GFiber. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about your role and your background and how you got there.
Sure, and I'll try not to bore the audience taking you through the 27-year journey that I've been on.
But we got to have everything that happened.
Yeah. As you point out, I've worked at probably more than my fair share of MSOs and ISPs. Every stop along the journey was great and has kind of added, hopefully, to the toolkit that I bring to my role today. I actually started in the telephony industry. So I started with a small phone company that later got bought by AT&T. From there, I jumped over to the cable world, first with Comcast. And as you said, it was Comcast, Insight, Charter. I spent some time at Altice Cablevision. So I've moved around there a little bit. And now I find myself in the fiber industry for the last 7.5 years, absolutely loving life. No comparison to my previous stops. This is similar, but yet an emerging, very exciting, very interesting space to be in, the fiber to the home. And I firmly believe it's where the future is.
Okay. Well, good. Well, we've been covering GFiber back when you were known as Google Fiber, of course. So I know we kind of interchanged them a little bit, but you have quite a few balls in the air pretty much at all times. It feels like you've got new builds. You're focused on growing the customer base in the existing footprints, and you're having to do all this with some financial discipline. So I want to talk a little bit about your system, right, for kind of ranking priorities and fast tracking certain ideas to the other people on the senior management team while you're trying to allocate all the resources as efficiently as you can. Has there been like a GFiber way that has kind of emerged from all of this over the years, or is that taking it a little bit too far?
There's definitely a GFiber way. I would also say there's a way that came with Denny Jane and myself when we joined 7.5 years ago that we've been iterating on and working on, and I dare not say perfecting, but honing over time. So the process of choosing which projects we work on, how you get those done, how you prioritize them, that actually started way back about 20 years ago at Insight when I first arrived there. And I can tell you we've been tweaking it ever since. We brought it to Time Warner Cable, and it was very successful there. it is the most successful it's ever been here at GFiber. And I would say that is in large part both the experience, but also the people we have doing it now are just world class and beyond anything I've ever seen. Simply put, though, some of the pillars of how we do that is number one, having a real definitive list of the projects you're working on that everybody sees, right? And we do that quarterly. Number two is it's as important to decide what you're not going to work on as it is what you are going to work on. So the killer of projects, project management, bandwidth is pet projects, things that are being tinkered with off the corner of people's desks. And then they go on and start asking other people questions. Hey, what do you think? Could we do this? You have to really build a bit of a moat around the organization and its resources, but also leave way for that creativity, right? So that people can still bring up good ideas quickly. So the third pillar would be you really need an efficient, lightweight, new project onboarding mechanism, right? Which all three components we've put together. And how that mechanism works is you come and you talk to people, mostly senior management, about the idea itself. And we say, up or down on whether or not you like the idea. Before you go through all the resource, how much does it cost? How many engineers is it going to take to build? What is the rollout plan? After the idea has been put into, okay, go pursue it, then you build all those other things up and then finally come back and say, okay, I want to paint all the roofs red. It's going to cost $1 million. It's going to cost about 20 hours of engineering resource, and it's going to take a year to roll out. What do you think? And then it finally becomes a project after those parts. So we've made the coming into the process fairly lightweight, and it gets heavier weight as you go through, so that when you do have a project, it's actually a fully baked project.
Okay, and it's going to be an interesting process because I'm sure there are, we kind of like the idea of like pet projects maybe the wrong label for some of these, but I'm sure there's like a lot of really interesting ideas that, maybe need to be put aside for a bit. But for like those things, if they don't fit into the like near-term priority, do you ever recall like circling back to it and going, it's like, hey, that was a great idea. Maybe something we can come back to later on that kind of would fit in down the road?
Yeah, there are many projects that come back around. Sometimes it's a timing fit. Sometimes it's a resource fit, right? Sometimes we're just doing too many things at once and it's a change management fit. We do have a concept of a parking lot where we take projects that have not advanced to the next level and store them there so that if they do come back around, you're not starting off from scratch. It also takes a tremendous amount of discipline and buy-in at all levels of the organization. So to be this disciplined, you can't do it without support from the CEO, the COO, the CTO, and everybody on down that says, hey, this is the process we're going to use. We're going to adhere to this type of rigor, and we will get more things fully done versus a bunch of things halfway done if we do it this way.
Right. But I guess the important thing, too, is you always have a pretty lively pool of ideas at the ready in a way.
More than we could possibly count. We work in a great industry, and particularly GFiber is filled with very creative, talented, hardworking people. The ideas are aplenty. It's why we need this discipline here more than anywhere else, because we do have a lot of great ideas and we don't want to lose track of them. At the same time, we don't want to boil the ocean, as we say. So it's really important to be judicious about what we pick, what we prioritize, but also leave the space for the creativity to shine through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing. The idea of, not trying to boil the ocean. I think that, like even in my part of the world, you have to kind of manage that as well, because there's so much happening in the world from our side of what we need to cover. And you do need to you do have to prioritize how you're spending your time, and like what rises to the top, what's on the front burner versus what I can push onto the back burner, I can get to maybe later on. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
I did
And
want.
at the risk of
Yeah.
repeating myself, I was going to say, at the risk of repeating myself, having done this in many places, the real killer of productivity are half done projects, right? So getting things that the company is fully behind, that are fully commissioned as projects, and then focusing all of your horsepower to getting the few things done versus many things half done is a real game changer.
Yeah. And as far, I want to talk a little bit about like the ongoing build outs that you have going. I mean, I imagine that's got to be always pretty high up on the priority list. And I think GFiber does a pretty good job just keeping us apprised of when a new market is being built, or you've lit it up and you're starting to take customers, and being really good about communicating that. But I was wondering if you can talk maybe a little bit about the current build out pace and GFiber, and kind of what's being done to maintain those in terms of getting the rights of way and staying on top of demand for like labor and materials, because if you don't have that, nothing else can really move forward.
Yeah. So as you probably remember, having tracked Google Fiber and now GFiber for a while, we went through a somewhat build dormancy phase, right? And what we were saying to ourselves internally is, before we expand greatly, we need to earn the right to expand, right? And earn the right by maximizing our performance in the markets that we're already in, and making sure we're delivering excellent customer service and deliver on our product value and proposition. We felt we had done that a few years ago, and then it was time to start to break new ground, and you saw us start to pop up in new markets across the country. The first thing that we did, which was really critical, is set up an advanced team. So there's a team that goes out, it starts saying which markets would we like to entertain conversations with. They start to have those conversations. They start to hammer out what, this is our build method. This is what it's going to mean to your market. This is our product offerings, right? This is what we want to do for the community. This is how we want to address digital divide. It's very important, though, particularly for us, and our philosophy is we want to be in the markets that want us, right? So we don't want to force or elbow our way into anybody's market, right? We want to be seen as a very good thing for a city or a metro area, right? Not a nuisance. Building fiber networks could be messy, right? It's even messier if the city doesn't want you there. So we really focus on making a good match and a good marriage between GFiber and the municipalities we deal with. And that's not just, cutting a ribbon with the mayor, who is very important in these things, but it's the mayor, it's the city council, it's the Department of Roads, and of course, it's the citizens and the customers, right? That all has to line up before we're just going to break into a market.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because you're right. I think before there was kind of that temporary pause. At one point, there was like Google Fiber, and there was a bunch of points on a map that said, "Hey, here's everything we're gonna try to jump into," and then kind of like, okay, we're going to focus on this, and then the expansion mode returned, and you explained, kind of what the trigger points were to advance in a market. And it seems like that was very successful, because there's been quite a few new markets in the last few years. Have there been points, though, where you've had conversations locally and it's just like, this isn't going to work? Obviously we don't hear about those specifically, but did those happen?
You don't hear about them, but
come to an agreement and go, yeah, we want you here.
Yeah. So I would say there are more than a few that the conversation was started and just never finished for one reason or another. There is more than a few that, for whatever reason, might not like our approach to market entry or to network build out. And then there are a few where just for reasons of doing good, healthy business, being good stewards of the capital that Google gives us, that just don't make sense for us to pursue any further. I would like to say proudly that there's less of those than the ones that are successful that you've seen over the last few years. And in order to keep that build velocity going, our philosophy is, one, you need strong local managers, right? So we went to a general manager structure, which is to push a lot of the management into the field so that there's actually eyes and boots on the ground. Number two, you need to line up good vendors who will most of the time, hopefully all of the time, represent the company's values and the face that you want to put on the company very well. And then when you find those vendors, treat them extraordinarily well, right? I find that creates a real symbiotic relationship between us and some of our vendors, and they're successful because of us and we're successful because of them at the same time. And then you have to keep them working. Right. So starts and stops are the killer of this business and the killer of running a fiber network or trying to build out a fiber network. So you need a way to keep these vendors that you have, the local crews, the local markets, always with that forward momentum. And that comes from having more than one place to build at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Because you do want to have some kind of a persistent pace, to a degree, like you said. Yeah. And how has, as far as like the pace, kind of based on your priorities and where you're focused on right now, has it been pretty consistent over the last 12 months, or is there like an acceleration coming, or are you pretty happy with where you are based on your commitments and the financial construct of what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say we have increased our build velocity every year for the last 4 to 5 years, right? And we're now getting to a point where we're building at a velocity that we feel is comfortable for our management team, comfortable for our local operations, and comfortable for our capital envelope. Could you push it faster and a little more than we're doing today? There's always another gear for us to go to, but we don't just want to go to that gear arbitrarily, right? If the demand calls for it, we have that gear. But for right now, we've been building, and I can't disclose how many we build every year, but I would say we are building at a pace that is exceeding expectations each year.
Okay. And I imagine you probably can't talk about specifics on costs, but I did want to maybe touch on like your approach in some of these builds, right? I think in the past we've talked about the micro trenching concept, right? And how is that being used? Is that like the go-to for the majority of the deployments, or does it fit in, in specific situations? Maybe first talk a little bit about what it is and then how you're applying it, I guess.
Yeah. So the real quick, micro trenching 101, right, is instead of kind of tunneling and what you call boring under the surface or going in aerially on a telephone pole or an electric pole, what we do is we take a big saw, we cut a very narrow strip, right, about 1 to 1.5 inches wide, around 10 to 12 inches deep, and then we put a conduit with fiber in it directly into the street. We find that we're able to do that much faster than boring, and we're able to do it at a level and a depth that avoids, in most cases, utilities, right, which typically run very, very much deeper than that, your water, your power, and everything else. So we find it's a responsible, safe, fast method to do our deployments with, but yet also very sturdy when it's compared to an aerial network that is subject to weather, wind, and things like that could interrupt service. We are definitely a micro trenching shop, I would say. So the overwhelming majority, 90 plus, maybe even 95% of our deployments are done in that method. And we very much believe in it and, tweak it and work to make it better and better each time.
Okay, great. And I do want to touch on BEAD here in a little bit, but as far as that program and other government subsidization projects, as well as a lot of other overbuilds or new builds that are going on with others in the nation, how has that impacted access to labor and materials? Have you seen a change there? And if so, has that caused you to maybe look even further ahead, so that you kind of secure your place in line so that you don't have the starts and stops that can impact, a fiber focused company?
I said a few minutes ago, when you find the right vendors and suppliers, treat them well, right? And what does it mean to treat them well? What they really care about is consistency, and they care about when you say you're going to do something, particularly pay them, that you pay them, right, without too much of a fuss. If they do a job, pay them for the job on time. Because we have a longer than average track record in this business, right? And there's not a lot of fiber deployment companies that could say they've been doing it, 10, 12, 14 years, right? The way we can at GFiber. We've built a really good network of suppliers and vendors. We've treated each other with respect. And because of that, I feel we have a bit of an advantage when it comes to scarcity of supply on either, right? Do we consider those things and at times worry about those things when there's a big rush, or certainly when COVID was happening, there was a lot of rush on supply, and we do from time to time take action to protect ourselves and bolster ourselves against those things. But generally speaking, because of the relationships we've built throughout the years, we have not had a problem, even with the boom of fiber deployment, keeping our folks, working with us and seeking to work with us. I could tell you that on any given week, I'm getting solicited by half a dozen vendors who want to come work for us, right? Because we have a reputation of being good to work for.
Okay, so it has not been a limitation on your plans, basically. The current market. Yeah. Okay. All right. And we've also been trying to just follow along, as GFiber has enhanced products or added new components, to your offering, whether that's testing, supersonic speeds, or doing improved home Wi-Fi management and advanced gateways, and trying to make sure that we're not just talking about speeds and feeds, but also the customer experience. I was wondering if you could talk how that's translated, to the to what you're seeing with customers with respect to acquisition and churn, as far as you can say, maybe anecdotally, but and then tied into that, can you drop any hints about what's on the roadmap?
Let me see if I could do so without getting in trouble. But the first thing I'll say is very much from the top of the organization on down, believe that the speed of our network will get us headlines, but the service we provide to our customers is what brings loyalty. And that loyalty in turn spreads word of mouth, and that gets us new customers. The formula to our success is not speed, although we care very much about it. The formula to our success is service. We take a lot of pride in the PC Mag awards that we win, in the NPS awards that we win, in the JD Power back-to-back awards that we've won. And we will always have a history of pushing the envelope on product and speed, but only if our service is stellar beyond anything anybody's ever seen. That is what we strive for. In terms of our products, one of the things that we've just pivoted to is, instead of leaning on speed only products and just commoditizing the speed that way, we've now rolled out what we have as 3 tiers of core, right? Which is for the average user, 1 gig, same price for the last 12 years at $70. And we're like, this is going to be good for your, casual user of internet and ISP, internet service providing and everything else. However, as we've all seen, and as you and I are doing right now, a lot of us work from home, right? And a lot of people educate from home. They do a lot of things. So we came out with our home tier at 3 gig, right? Which we feel is very good for those of us who are working from home, who have higher bandwidth, more bandwidth utilization that is going to happen throughout the day. And then we have our edge product for those who want the best, right? And those who want and need the fastest all the time at 8 gig. That is going to give you the fastest thing that is reliable and consistent on our network. And we will always be pushing the envelope on those speeds. We are constantly labbing in GFiber Labs what's coming down the pike, and we want to make it available to our customers, but always in a way that comes with transparency in pricing, right? What you see is what you get on your bill, with service that we are known for, and then the speeds will take care of themselves after that, right? We have something for everyone, and we feel that it's done at a great price point and at a real value for the customer. In terms of what's coming around the corner, the company was built on pushing the envelope. And I could tell you that in 2026, we will continue to push the envelope again. And I think there'll be some noteworthy things that you're going to see coming out of us early in the year.
Okay. So I just need to stay tuned. Yes, I think is what you're telling me. Okay. Well, I think it was.
Sorry about that. You did.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, though, you brought up the pricing, right? And, when I, even though, like speeds and feeds, again, are not as much of the primary focus anymore in broadband, we are seeing your competitors, like your old friends in cable, start to shift to this price lock model and get away from the old promotional idea where, hey, you get in for a price and 12 months later it goes way up and everybody leaves. And now they're kind of trying to put a little more certainty around the pricing. And when you had mentioned, the 1 gig hasn't changed. It's like you've almost had like a 12-year price lock without like announcing it. So that's just an observation, not a question.
Yeah.
So
we'd like to think we're kind of, we led the market in that space, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when it first came in, it just seemed like such a crazy price, back in the early days. And it's just it's been able to stay there. And again, I know that GFiber does not talk about finances. I know you're still you're still in the other bets at Alphabet. Is that right? Or right, you're still in there. But from a high level, what can you say about the financial health of the business? Right, it sounds like you've been able to kind of find the right balance between expansions and focusing in on your your current footprint.
What I would say at a very high level is one, Google is the greatest parent company a fiber or any other business could ever want. So they've really been great and believed in what we're doing and believed in our business model and have really stuck with us through certainly the years that Denny and I have been here and well before that. So that is always a great benefit. Two is the company GFiber is very financially healthy right now. And 3, it's the healthiest it's ever been in our history and continuing to get so each and every quarter. So we're really proud of the operational and financial and growth momentum that we have. It's really great to, when those three things snap into alignment, it's something special. And frankly, with all the companies that I've worked with and for, and all the great things that I've been able to participate in, there's nothing I've ever seen that's made me this proud.
Okay. And with that as a backdrop, and I know you can't identify markets or anything, but as you continue to talk to local authorities, on opportunities, can we expect more expansion down the road, as we look into 2026?
I think you can, right? And again, we're going to make decisions that are good for the customers and the markets that we're approaching, places that we could succeed on a customer growth and a financial metric place, and ultimately we believe we want to make the communities better, right? And in order to make the communities better, it's got to be a symbiotic relationship between companies like ours who come in and want to deliver a service, and from the customers and the municipality management, that all comes together to say, we want you here. We say we want to be here, and together we're successful.
All right. Now, this is kind of in that expansion arena, but as I mentioned earlier, BEAD has been in the headlines a lot, but of late, because the states are starting to release their new proposals under the revised rules, where there's a bit more of a focus on costs and eliminating some of the requirements that we're not, that I think some people are glad to see gone. But we have still, even with the with that opening the door to like fixed wireless and satellite, a lot of the early returns are still seeing like a pretty good focus on fiber. And in the past, I mean, we're talking years ago, when we were first starting to talk about BEAD, GFiber had said that partnerships might be the path with BEAD. But what is your current take on that program? I mean, are there opportunities there, or are you expecting to maybe stay out of the fray and instead prioritize and focus on all the other projects that you have underway and maintaining the balance that you have?
Yeah, I would say I think it's an excellent program. I hope that it stays a very consistent program, that the operators who avail themselves of it can plan around it, right? Not just a month or two at a time, but quarters and years at a time. To me, that's the success of a good fiber builder, or really good any operation. For us, it's more the latter, as you indicated. So we're sticking to our plan. What you see today getting rolled out was many months and quarters in the making. So our planning cycle tends to be fairly long, and we're still executing on a multi-year build out strategy that we've put together, over the course of the last few years. We don't see ourselves, getting into the BEAD arena anytime soon, although we remain very open-minded in the best way to cascade, fiber and excellent service through places that need it throughout the country.
Right. And there are still, there maybe there's some underserved or unserved areas where maybe there could be partnerships, or, maybe, I don't know if that's like outside of the BEAD arena, if there might be opportunities there, where a partnership would make sense.
Yeah, we're open, and we do work in partnerships in some of our municipalities, and those partnerships, by and large, do great. They work for all parties. I would also say, in terms of our build philosophy, almost every market that we're in has some need to close the digital divide. We are quite focused on doing that, right? And when we go into markets, we want to build the overwhelming majority of the market, right? So we don't want to Swiss cheese anything or cherry pick anything. We want to go into a market, make sure that the business could be successful there, And then as part of that success, make sure we're doing good by the community and good by those who need us.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, we've been talking about fiber a lot, but fixed wireless is part of your arsenal in several markets. And maybe just as, just to get our bearings on strategically how that fits, where does fixed wireless make the most sense right now? It seems like MDUs have been a pretty good use case for it.
Yeah, we think in the MDU use case, where by and large we're able to deliver gig or gig plus speeds pretty consistently with the level of service that GFiber customers should and come to expect, we feel that is the real play. We have 6 markets where we are exclusively a wireless provider, right, in that way, and those markets are doing very well, and we have a thriving business there, as well as in some of our other markets. We've started to deploy that for multiple dwelling units. It's a quicker deployment. It's a less invasive deployment, right? Because you're using a lot of the structured wiring within a building to do it that way. So we feel it has its place alongside our thriving fiber business, right, to complement one to the other. We will never be 100% in that space. We are GFiber and Google Fiber for a reason, but we do think it complements our fiber business very well.
Okay, very good. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. It was great to catch up with you, cover a lot of ground about what's going at GFiber. So it was great to have you on the podcast. So thanks again for joining me.
Well, great, Jeff, to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come on and inviting me over. And it was a real pleasure. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, hope to stay in touch. Okay, thanks, Rocco.